Okay, this is going to be the workflow tutorial for 23 and Delete, which is my AI movie that I made using Runway.
This is genetic data, your genetic data. You should delete it.
I mean, it's not that easy.
I was really eager to use Runway References because it allows you to move the camera around the scene. So you can start with an establishing shot and then do an over-the-shoulder shot of one character, do an over-the-shoulder shot of another character. And this is really how you make an AI movie, or how you make a movie. And so I've done this before with Sora. And when I used Sora, the video generator part of it is not great. So I can generate some great images with it, but you can't use the same tool to turn it into a video. So what I like about Runway is that I can move the camera around the scene and then animate those scenes into videos and then make the characters in those videos talk, all within Runway.
My data's everywhere. Every company has my data.
So this is the Runway dashboard, and they have these projects, which they call sessions. And I'm going to go into the one that I did for my movie. And you can see I did almost 800 generations in 13 days. So I'm taking advantage of their unlimited plan. But before I jump into mine, I'm just going to do a really quick overview about how to use references, and then I'll get into mine. So we'll start a new session. To do that, we're just going to click Generate Image. So I've done consistent character tutorials like this for Kling and for Sora. And just like in those, I'm going to test the consistency of characters in the same setting. And then I'm also going to take one of those characters and move them around to lots of different places. So it's a different way to test consistent characters. So to start, what we're going to do is just generate our characters. This is pretty similar to the one that I did, and I refined it a little bit. So I'm going to generate one of the man, and then I'm just going to change this to woman and generate that. So when you're on the unlimited plan, you get 2 generations at a time, and they call that explore mode. So right now I can only do 2 things. I could switch over to credits mode, and I could just do this other one if I wanted. So I could just paste in this living room one and generate it, and you'll probably watch. This one will probably go faster than the other ones. And then I'm going to go back to explore mode. So one of the problems I had actually with Runway is I feel like they really tend towards conventionally attractive people. Like they just feel very Instagram face to me. So when I show you mine, I'll show you what I did. So we've got our characters here, and we've got a living room here. This is how I started, and I don't think you need to do it this way. If you've got a specific set in mind, you can do it this way, but I'll show you what I did in a second that worked a little better, I thought. So how do we take these characters and put them in a scene? So when you scroll over the image, you'll see there's reference for image, there's input for video, and there's vary. So if you wanted to try some variations of one of these characters, you could click vary. In this case, we'll just click this button for reference for image. And when we click that over here, we get the first slot open. And then you can see there's 2 more that we can do. So we can just go down here and do the same thing for one of these characters. And then we could go down here and pick which place we want to do. You can do a reference that way. So now we've got these characters here and a scene, and then we can write a prompt to put those characters in the scene. So it says here you can add references by using the @ sign. So we have the characters in here, but in order to really be intentional about what we're doing, we can say something like image 1 is sitting on the couch in image 3. So he's sitting on a couch in this room, and image 2 stands looking at her iPhone. So we can generate an image that looks like that. You know, not bad in terms of integrating all of the elements that we asked for. Like the room is exactly the same, almost. Like this artwork on the wall and this lamp is very consistent, which is nice. You know, so if you have characters and a room in mind, this is a good way to do it. So that's one way to do it. That's how I started doing it. And then I started to name them. So let's just call this guy and call this gal. And we're not going to use this room. So now we have their names in there, and we don't have the room. And this is how I did mine. So one of the tips that I learned when I did this is if I generate it without a room, if I don't have a specific room in mind, I get more options of what the room might look like. And then I can pick the one I want and then move the camera around that room. Here, when it says the man, I'm just going to hit the @ sign guy, and you can see it references him there. And then the woman, I'll just go @ gal. She's reading on her iPhone. And I put this in here. I wanted to put brand names in there, the start of an Apple or Google commercial, because I wanted to see if it flagged their system, and it didn't. So other times, many things get flagged in Runway, but this one didn't get flagged for some reason. So I'm going to generate this one now, and we'll see how this looks compared to the other one. This is more the style that I did. So let's move the camera around this scene. If we want to move the camera around this scene, we can add this as a reference image. So we just click that button. So we have 3 reference images here. Let's just do an over-the-shoulder shot like we might do in dialogue. So there's a couple ways we can do that. So here's one way we can do it. Close-up of guy as seen from the perspective of gal in image 3. This is the one where it's a close-up of him as seen from her perspective. The other way we can do that is say over the shoulder dialogue shot of guy. So it's over his shoulder, focusing on gal in image 3. Let's try that one. What I like about using the over the shoulder shot prompt is that you get the other character in there. And then what you can do is just switch these around, right? So you can just say of gal focusing on guy. And then we can add some emotion into it. So we could use the same thing and say something like, he seems befuddled and confused. We can start to give them some actions or facial expressions that will help when we bring those over to dialogue later. I don't know what happened here. Suddenly she's no longer wearing clothes. Again, this is why it's really important in your reference images to get rid of things that you don't like. So if you don't want this plant or you don't want this bokeh, it's going to keep those things. So let's say we want to turn one of these into a video. Instead of clicking the reference image, we just hit input for video. You click this and it brings this video over here. You can say what you want to do. One thing that I noticed is the characters are always talking. Because I typically have the characters talking, I don't want them talking in this video. And no matter what, it's going to probably make her talk. But what I typically do is say something like, she maintains her eye line as they stare at each other in silence. And I put random words in there sometimes, like micro expressions, subtle camera motion. But you get the idea. So that's how we turn those into videos. While we're turning into videos, I'm going to tell you what I think is one of the hottest tips out there if you're doing a big project. So one is you want to favorite the ones that you actually like as you go. And if you see, so watch over here. When I favorite this, over here, there's like a little, I don't know what that is, a page folded over icon. Now you're probably thinking like, well, how do I search my favorites on this page? And you can't. There's absolutely nothing that you can do to search your favorites other than scroll here and look at that icon on this page. But when you go into the assets, you're able to filter by your favorites, which is super helpful. If you've got 800 assets like I do, there's just so many to go through. And a lot of them like this, like it's just hard to know which one did I like, and you can't really search for them. A nice way to organize them is to just go to favorites and then go to favorited, and then it will show you just like the limited number of ones that you had favorited. The other thing to note is that here are all of the models down here, and then here is the duration. So for my dialogue shots, I was typically doing 10 seconds. I was often using Gen 4 Turbo. So the shots of him that involved more complex action within the whole scene, I would do in Gen 4, and I got better results that way. So once we've generated these videos, the thing that is relevant for what we're doing now is this button here that says actions. So you're going to click that, and then here's the different things we can do. So the 3 that I used are adjust video, Act-One, and lip sync. I actually didn't use lip sync, but I'm going to show you how to do it. So let's look at this shot, and it's very static, and maybe that's okay, but maybe you want a little bit of like handheld shakiness. So we can click this actions button, go to adjust video, and we can either trim it here if we wanted to, if there's a part of it. Sometimes someone will do something and you want to trim it out. We might want to speed it up. A lot of times it might be in slow motion, so you could actually speed it up if you wanted to. Or you can do handheld. So you can like say, let's make it about, I think I would use like 2 and then just 1 for shake speed and render that. These go a lot faster than the other ones, and you can actually do this sort of thing while you're generating, because this isn't considered part of the generation. So you could like play around with this while other assets are generating. One thing I like about doing this too is that if you've got dialogue scenes, like, so we've got this camera motion that's going like this, right? Now, if we want to use the same shot, we can go into actions, adjust video, reverse it, and then add some handheld camera strength. It's essentially the same exact shot, but it feels different because the camera is moving differently. All right, so now let's have her say something. So I'm going to click actions and lip sync, and it's looking for a face. These are the three options here. So we can type out something, we can upload an audio file, or we can record audio. In my opinion, none of these voices are that great.
Hi there.
Hey there, Maggie here.
Slow down and take a nice deep breath.
Good evening. I was actually
Oh, me? I'm Claudia, and
Hey there, I'm Nikki.
So we'll choose Nikki for hers. So we're just going to type the script there. We're using her voice, and we'll generate the lip sync.
Honey, didn't you take one of those genetic DNA tests a few years ago?
And then now we'll go do the same thing for his video. And we'll click lip sync there. It's going to detect his face. We'll make sure that we're switching the voice.
My findings actually got published in the scientific journal.
So we'll switch to his voice. Oh, I think we can only do one lip sync at a time. Let's see how this one turned out.
It wasn't very specific in my case.
That's why I think the lip sync option is maybe the least best option. The next way to do that, you can click here and go to the dashboard again. Go over here and where it says create audio. And then we can record our audio and change it to a voice. And that's going to be under the Stylize Speech button here. So we're going to click here, and you can either, if you record it separately, you can upload an audio of you talking and change the voice here, or you can record audio here. So let's just try that really quick. So I'll just say, honey, didn't you take one of those DNA tests a few years ago? Honey, didn't you take one of those DNA tests a few years ago? So that's what it sounds like. So we'll say use this, and then we're going to change it to Nikki's voice. So it's my recording that I just did. You could also have uploaded an audio file. We're changing it to Nikki's voice down here, and we'll just generate that. So let's hear what this sounds like.
Honey, didn't you take one of those DNA tests a few years ago?
So that sounds much more realistic. And if our expressions aren't as good, it still sounds more real. Let's go back to the dashboard. I want to leave that page. We're going to go back to here and lip sync. So this is hard to see here, but it says drag and drop an audio file here, or upload a file, or select from assets. Like this should be more prominent in my opinion, and it's not even lit up. So you want to click on this word assets, and then this is our audio of Nikki. So we're going to click that one in here.
Honey.
So there. And then we'll generate the lip sync that way. All right, let's see how this one sounds.
Honey, didn't you take one of those DNA tests a few years ago?
It looped, so you got to see that car go in reverse. So make sure that you do the 10-second clips and make sure that the dialogue is less than the video. But I think that sounds a lot better than this.
Honey, didn't you take one of those genetic DNA tests a few years ago?
All right, let's just do a quick review. So we've generated a portrait of the characters. Then we generated an establishing shot using reference images and a prompt to put them in a scene together. We did an over-the-shoulder shot of each of them. We turned those into videos. We added some camera shake using this tool, which is totally optional. And then we lip synced two different ways. When I switch over to my session, I'm going to show you how I did Act-One, which I think is the best way to get lip sync results right now. In order to do Act-One, you will have to record a performance video of yourself, and it doesn't have to be great. Mine aren't great. I've said this in previous videos, but if you are doing a performance video, you have to act big. You have to move your eyebrows big. You almost have to overact just to get a regular human reaction in the Act-One character. So what I did is I recorded myself, broke those up into dialogue sections. So I just exported each of these as MP4. So if you're using CapCut like I am, you can just highlight all of those clips, right click here and say export clips, and it will export each one of these as a clip. And then you want to bring those into 11 Labs, go into the voice changer tool, add your MP4, and you can use an MP4. To be honest, that actually sounds awesome. And then you can just take that and choose a voice. So I created my own voices. You can find the ones that you like in the library or generate your own. There's also the default ones, and then just generate the speech that way. Then you'll download all of those voice files from 11 Labs, go back to your video editor where you created the MP4s, and then you're just going to match up each video with the audio. And at first it's going to sound like this.
This is genetic data, your genetic data.
So what I do is I just mute the track that has my voice, and that way it's using my video and the audio from 11 Labs. So it sounds more like this.
This is genetic data, your genetic data. You should delete it.
Then we'll export those and bring those over to Runway. Then you find the video that you want, click Actions, Act-One, and then you can select the asset. So I've got my performance driving clip here, which that look great, and then the character that we are going to be mapping this performance to.
Which could be used to help save my life or the life of others. Which could be used to help save my life or the life of others.
One tip I have is in regards to prompting. Whenever you go to a specific part of Runway, there's this little scholar's hat. And if you click that, it will open up the prompting guide. I created a custom GPT that was trained on the Gen 4 prompting guide. So there's one for references, there's one for Gen 4, there's one for Act-One. So I just put those guides in there, made a GPT. I used that to help me write the prompts. So I think that's a helpful tip. The other thing is I felt like I was getting really conventionally attractive people, which is fine if you just are into that sort of thing, but I wanted people that had a little bit more character to them. So I decided to combine different backgrounds and different demographics within a character. I think one thing that worked really well is to say things like unconventional face and little things like this, like easygoing warmth. She's the funniest friend in her friend group. That helped me get other characters. And I really was drawn to her because it seemed like someone who looked like a real person to me. So the other thing that I think is helpful to help maintain consistency and also to help test consistency is to give them a consistent wardrobe item. So for her, it was this floral blouse. For him, it was these glasses. And I think it helps visually tie the characters. Like you feel like it's the same character just because you see them in the same wardrobe. So it's a nice trick as a filmmaker. So I think it's just helpful to sell the realism and the continuity of it. One thing I noticed, I saw this guy's face and I thought he was great. The one thing, and maybe someone will notice this if I just point it out without me pointing it out, but there's this red highlight on his face here. And this caused problems later when I was trying to generate things because it would sometimes pick up this red in his clothes and on his face. And so there's a lot of generations that, you know, if I had prompted this a little bit differently, if I was doing this again and I saw this red highlight, I would be like, nope, don't do that. So like this is a good highlight. This is a good highlight. Very even. But this guy just looked like the right character. So if I were doing this again, I would have varied this a little bit more and made sure that this lighting wasn't there. I like adding some emotion and expression to the images so it's not just happening through Act-One. So he's a little bit befuddled and taken off guard. She's curious to know the answer to an important question. I think Runway's prompting is really good at understanding like the emotional intent of what you're trying to do. You can generate a prompt from image. So there's two ways you can do that. You can like click that button and then just drag it directly from here to here, which is super cool. And then it analyzes the image and then it's going to create a prompt for that. And I guess this is like what a good Runway prompt looks like if that's what they're putting in there, where it's got subject, scene, style. So this is a good format to follow, probably. So I had this idea for like the Edge of Tomorrow poster. So here it's like a Caucasian male soldier. So I'm just going to say a soldier. So I can do that. And then I can just put him in there, 23 guy. So I could do that and generate images that way. You can also, what I did was I decided to generate images of him in armor already that I liked. And then we'll do the @ so we'll do like a futuristic soldier with the face of 23 guy. I like to double up on that if I can, because it helps, I think, underscore it. And then we'll generate that. So what that will do is give us an image with the same framing. It's not using Tom Cruise. It's not using Edge of Tomorrow. It's looking at that picture, describing it, and then creating a prompt for that. So I'm not actually using Tom Cruise in this prompt at all. So I think that that can be helpful. If you have a specific shot framing or something in mind, that's one way to do it. Here's another kind of reference image that I tried, and I didn't end up using it, but I can see how it works. So I was getting this giraffe and him in the bed, and it wasn't really the angle that I wanted. And then I remember that you can actually add a sketch. So what I did is, I am not an artist, clearly, but I drew him and the giraffe, and they have this like EEG headsets connected by wires. And so I could get a little bit closer. I actually did end up using this one. It wasn't exactly what I wanted. I didn't understand that this was supposed to be a bed. This got a little bit closer when I said in the prompt that they're on beds. I didn't use the one like this, but you can see that it was actually not too far away from the sketch. So if you are a better artist, or even if you're a poor artist like me, it's a nice way to be able to like show what you have in mind. So I really like this version where it starts with him and then it pans over to the right. And the fact that the Act-One copied that motion and you can kind of see him doing that, I really like that a lot. So I wanted to keep that. So what I did was, since that was the start frame of that shot, I needed to figure out a way to make that the end frame. So I used the same image and then said dolly out, and he maintains his eye line slowly. So it's just this. And I could just reverse that in CapCut, I know. But what I did was actually go in and click this button, adjust video, and click reverse here, and then rendered it this way. And then that way I get this shot, and it's just easier. I can just, when I download the assets, now I've got one shot of it zooming in while she's talking, and then it flips to him talking in the new clip. That was a nice way to get a long continuous shot for one of them. The other thing that I did is I brought in an image of the Polish grandma from Wonderful Dream and put her in the background here as an Easter egg. One of the first comments was someone noticed that she was in there, so that was exciting to see. All right, thank you for watching, and if you like this one, I've got other tutorials about Sora and Kling and lots of others, so go check them out.